investigation arose from the data breach notification submitted by the EMSD to the PCPD on the 1st of May 2024. And the data breach involved the personal data of persons who had undergone testing in the restriction testing declaration operations conducted in 2022. Upon receipt of the data breach notification from the EMSD, the Privacy Commissioner commenced investigation against the EMSD to assess whether the EMSD's acts or practices relating to the incident had contravened the requirements under the Personal Data Privacy Ordinance. And in the course of the investigation, the PCPD has conducted 5 rounds of inquiries with the EMSD, and we have examined the information provided by the EMSD, and we considered the follow-up and remedial measures taken by the EMSD. We have also approached the contractor twice to obtain the relevant information. In terms of the timeline, you can see from the diagram in the slide, between March to July 2022, that was the time when the restriction testing declaration operations were conducted. A total number of 14 operations were conducted to carry out COVID-19 tests for the residents or visitors in 14 buildings. And in order to collect the data of persons who were subject to the RTD operations, and the EMSD procured the services of an e-form platform associated with the cloud platform Argus Online, and they created 14 e-forms. The relevant e-forms and the data were stored in the data repository of Argus Online. In late December 2022, the EMSD noted that the RTD operations had come to an end, and they therefore notified the contractor not to renew the service contract after its expiry in late February 2023. When it came to time late February 2023, the service contract between the EMSD and the contractor expired. Thereafter, in April 30th this year, the EMSD learned of the incident that the personal data of persons who had undergone the RTD can be browsed by anyone at the relevant website of Argus Online without logging into any account or password. Therefore, the EMSD immediately requested the contractor to remove the personal data from the e-form platform on the same day, so that the public could no longer browse the relevant information. As we can see, the incident affected the personal data of over 17,000 persons, and the diagram shows the relevant affected buildings and the number of persons involved. And the personal data included their names and addresses, the Hong Kong ID card numbers, telephone numbers, age, gender, whether they were vaccinated, and whether they were tested positive in the PCR test and the respective dates. As we can see, some of the data are sensitive personal data. Having considered the circumstances of the incident, the information obtained during the investigation, the Privacy Commissioner found that the following four deficiencies of the EMSD were the contributing factors for the occurrence of the incident. Firstly, the Privacy Commissioner found that there is a lack of written policies on the retention of personal data collected in the RTD operations. Hence, there was no clear guidance on the storage and disposal of data. To elaborate on this deficiency, whilst the EMSD might not be able to specify the retention period or formulate a data retention policy before or during the RTD operations, nonetheless, it had only relied on the notification given to the contractor in late 2022 not to renew the contract as the basis for suggesting that a data retention period has actually been specified. However, there had not been any written policy specifying the retention period of the personal data. Such written policies could provide a clear basis for the retention and disposal of data and play an important role in this regard. In particular, for this case, the data involved sensitive personal information, just that what I've mentioned about name, age, gender, etc., as well as their identity card numbers and PCT test results. Besides, the incident affected over 17,000 persons. Therefore, the EMSD should be particularly vigilant and cautious in handling the data involved. The second deficiency is EMSD's failure to make an equivocal request to the contractor for deletion of the relevant data in late 2022, when the EMSD became aware that the RTD operations had come to an end. In fact, it was only when the EMSD became aware of the incident on the 30th of April this year that it requested the contractor to remove the personal data involved from the eForm platform on the same day. The relevant data was then, as the Commissioner has mentioned, removed that evening so that they could no longer be accessed by the public. It is evident that the data could be removed upon a request being made with the contractor. The Privacy Commissioner considered that requesting the contractor to delete the relevant data when the EMSD notified the contractor not to renew the contract would have been an effective and feasible step to safeguard personal data. However, the EMSD has not taken this action. Another deficiency is that EMSD failed to take the initiative to delete the personal data involved, particularly during the period from late December 2022 to late February 2023, when the EMSD was still being able to log in to the eForm platform to manage the personal data stored therein. Instead, the EMSD only waited for the contract with the contractor to expire without taking the initiative to check and delete the personal data from the platform to avoid unnecessary or excessive retention of the personal data. This is a clear deficiency. Finally, the Privacy Commissioner also found that EMSD had failed to properly follow up with the contractor on the deletion of data, as the EMSD merely assumed that the contractor would act on his own volition after the end of the contract. The EMSD had never urged, checked, or reminded the contractor to delete the personal data involved, and had never sought to understand or monitor the progress or effectiveness of the contractor's relevant actions. The EMSD, as the data user, should not merely await passively for the contractor to take action, nor should it ride on its trust in the contractor and not to verify the work done by the contractor. This is another obvious deficiency. The Privacy Commissioner understood that the severe epidemic situation, departments involved in RTD operation needed to deploy resources and act quickly. Owing to the time constraints, the EMSD might not have considered the policies and arrangements for deletion of personal data when they planned and conducted the RTD operations. However, since then, the EMSD has not formulated a policy on the retention period of the relevant personal data, nor has it made an unequivocal request to the contractor for data deletion. The EMSD also failed to proactively delete the personal data or to follow up on and check the deletion of personal data by the contractor after completion of the RTD operations, which results in the unnecessary exposure of the relevant personal data to the risk of data leakage. It is clear not only did EMSD fail to comply with the requirements of the PDPO, it had also fallen short of the reasonable expectations of the public. As such, the Commissioner has found that the EMSD has contravened Data Protection Principle 2(2) and also Data Protection Principle (4)(1). For DPP 22, the EMSD had not taken all practicable steps to ensure that the personal data involved was not kept longer than was necessary for the fulfillment of the purpose for which the data was used. And for Data Protection Principle 4(1), the EMSD has not taken all practicable steps to ensure that the personal data involved was protected against unauthorized or accidental access, processing, erasure, loss, or use. Thereby, it was in contravention of this DPP. In light of the above contraventions, the Privacy Commissioner has served an enforcement notice on the EMSD, directing it to remedy the contraventions and prevent similar recurrence of the contraventions.